In this lesson, we're going to begin talking about polynomials. We're going to talk about what polynomials are, and we're going to learn how to add and subtract polynomials. First, a polynomial is an expression consisting of many terms. And when we work with polynomials, we want our polynomials in our final answer to be in what we call standard form. This means that the polynomial is written in alphabetical order with the highest exponent first. So that's why we need to be able to classify polynomials so that we can make sure that we're working in standard form. So when we look at an example of a polynomial, 2x to the third plus 5x squared minus 4x plus 7. When we look at this, we have four terms, and the first term is to the third power, your second term is to the second power, your third term is to the first power, and your final term does not have an exponent. The highest exponent, so in this example, our highest exponent, the third power, is called the degree. So we can classify a polynomial based off the number of terms. So this example has four terms. And we can classify it based off of the degree, the highest exponent used in that polynomial. So when you're classifying a polynomial based off of the degree, the highest exponent, you can classify it as either a constant, so that's just if you have like the number 5. You can classify it as linear, so that means your highest exponent is 1. So for example, 4x would be linear. Quadratic, 4x squared would be quadratic. Cubic, your highest exponent is 3. And quartic, your highest exponent is 4. You can also classify it based off of the number of terms. And we've really already started talking about this with our previous lessons. So if it only has one term, this is a monomial, like what we talked about in the previous lessons. If the polynomial has two terms, so for example, 2x minus 7, we call that a binomial. If it has three terms, that is a trinomial. And then anything greater than 3, we just call it a polynomial. So let's look at some examples and try to classify them based off of degree and based off of the number of terms. So number 1 is 6. So we can classify this as a constant, and it is a monomial. It's a constant because our highest exponent is 0, and then it's a monomial because it only has one term. Number 2, negative 2x, we can classify as linear because our highest exponent is 1, and it is also a monomial. It only has one term. Remember, terms have to be separated with addition and subtraction. So like number 3, it's also going to be linear because our highest exponent is 1, but then it is a binomial because we have two terms. Go ahead and highlight number 4, 5, and 6. And then let's practice putting some polynomials in standard form. So number 7, 3x plus 1 plus 2x squared. So remember, standard form is going to be in alphabetical order, and from our greatest to our highest exponent first, so greatest to least. So when we look at number 7, we don't have to worry about it being in alphabetical order because the only variable used is x. So then next we want to look and make sure that it's in order with our highest exponent first. Our highest exponent here is the term with 2x squared. So we're going to move that to the front. Our next highest term is going to be 3x. It's raised to the first power. So that's going to, it's a positive 3x, so it's going to be plus 3x. And then our last term that we have left is plus 1. So this is now in standard form. Now looking at number 8, x squared plus 64 minus x plus 7x cubed. Again, we only have one variable, so I don't have to worry about it being in alphabetical order. So then we just look at our exponents. So our term with the highest exponent is 7x cubed. The next highest term is x squared, and that's a positive x squared, so plus x squared. The next highest term is negative x. So make sure the sign directly in front of the term is the sign that goes with that term. So we would write that minus x. And then the last term we have is plus 64. So now this polynomial is in standard form. And notice when it's in standard form, if you have a constant, that is at the very end of your polynomial. Go ahead and highlight number 9 and 10. And go ahead and highlight number 11, and let's look at number 12. So number 12, you do have multiple variables. You have an x and a y. So we want to make sure we put it in alphabetical order first. So alphabetically, x comes before y. So we want to look at all of our terms that have an x. And that would be these two that I've highlighted. Now, to know which one of these comes first, we then want to look at our highest exponent. The negative x to the third has our highest exponent. So that's going to come first. And then minus 7x squared y squared. Now we look at our terms we have left. We have 13 and 5y cubed. The 5y cubed would come next, and then plus 13. Again, recognizing that your constant is last. Now that we can classify and put them in standard form, let's look at adding and subtracting polynomials. This is something that we have done before, and we've done it a few times. We've just not necessarily put this name on it. So adding and subtracting polynomials is simply combining like terms. So let's write that underneath it, combining like terms. The only thing you want to be careful of is when you're subtracting, so like in this second example, when you're subtracting, you want to make sure that you distribute that negative before you subtract. And we'll look at that in just a minute. So the first example, we're adding two trinomials. So again, it's a trinomial because it has 3 terms. And the second one also has 3 terms. So to add these two trinomials, we just have to combine our like terms. And remember, the variables and their exponents have to be exactly the same in order to combine them. And because my answer needs to be in standard form, I'm going to go ahead and start by looking at my highest exponent first. So I'm going to go ahead and combine negative x squared plus, or negative 2x squared plus 3x squared. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1, so that's just x squared. Then I'm going to combine my terms with just x. So 18x minus 8x. So it's 18 minus 8, which is a positive 10x. And then finally, I'm going to combine my constants, 15 minus 10, which is positive 5. And because I looked at it in order, when combining, it's already in standard form for me. Now in example 2, we are subtracting, because we have subtraction in the middle, we're subtracting a binomial minus a trinomial. So again, I'm going to start by distributing that negative to everything inside the second parentheses. So my first set of parentheses is going to stay the same. 6x squared plus 7x. And actually we don't even really need the parentheses. And then when I distribute that negative, so it's like saying negative 1 times 10x, so that's negative 10x. Negative 1 times 3x squared is negative 3x squared. And then negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. So then I can combine 6x squared minus 3x. 6 minus 3 is 3x squared. 7x minus 10x is negative 3x. And there's nothing to combine that constant with, so that's just bring down your negative 2. And because I did it in order for standard form, my answer is in standard form. I don't have to worry about rewriting it. So again, adding and subtracting polynomials is simply just combining like terms. Just remember, when you're subtracting, to distribute that negative throughout your second polynomial. And then go ahead and highlight the next activity. So you have your directions, and then you have the problems to work. If you need extra room, you can use a separate sheet of paper to work some of them out, or you can work them out at the bottom of this page.